I'm forgetful. I really screwed up. A few weeks ago, I told you that we had our final top 10 songs of the 80s countdown, our top 10 songs of each year. But I actually overlooked one year in the 80s, arguably the best year of the 80s, 1983. That's right, we got the top 10 songs of 1983 coming at you, including a song that was written during a legend's nap. It would become one of the dirtiest songs of the time, even though some people still think it's about a car. And then there's a song that a legend interrupted a doctor's appointment with his wife's gynecologist to nail it down. And there's a catchy song that came to a failing duo who knew it would be a smash until they showed it to their record label, and the label said the song was lacking any hooks. The bewildered songwriter said, the whole song is a hook, and of course he was right. And then there's my pick for the number one song, which I'll tell you right now is going to be a source of controversy with all the great songs that dropped in 1983. This one only went to number 30, and this band is mistakenly called a one-hit wonder, but I'm telling you, it's the most exhilarating song of the year. And if you really listen to it, I know you're going to agree. I got the top 10 songs of 83. I know you're going to love it. It's coming up. Hey, music junkies. Professor of Rock always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time, especially today with 83. If you remember that wooden bat with the word Wonder Boy on it and the Thunderbolt, lightning bolt, you'll dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the white button and click the bell so you know when our stuff comes out. Also, check us out at professorrock.com and check out our new podcast. Seriously, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it. Click here or click down below. Rate us, follow us. We got some great stuff there you're going to enjoy. Actually, every episode we've ever done, you can search it out and find some good stuff. 1983 was a year full of military invasions, the elevation of the Cold War, and the year when the roots of a strange connection of computer networks called the internet were planted. But on the music front, it was a grand time where some of the biggest blockbuster albums were released, like Michael Jackson's Thriller, Lionel Richie's Can't Slow Down, David Bowie's Let's Dance, and of course, Synchronicity, the final studio album by The Police. And that's where we're going to start our countdown of the top 10 songs of 83. Start with a track from that incredible swan song. At number 10, it's a song that many have walked down the aisle to, even though it's a sinister song about control, obsession, and human surveillance. Or was it really a love song? We're going to find out. I've got Every Breath You Take by The Police at number 10. Now, looking to get away from the chaos and the spotlight, Sting escaped to the Caribbean. He found himself at the legendary GoldenEye estate in Jamaica, once the home of James Bond's creator, Ian Fleming. There, sitting at Fleming's old writing desk, Sting began sketching out what would become one of the most famous songs of all time. Actually, it's the most played song ever. But his surroundings were far more peaceful than his personal life at the time. It was a mess. The police were in constant conflict, fighting over artistic direction. And Sting himself was in the middle of emotional turmoil. He just split from his wife, Frances, and he'd fallen in love with her close friend, Trudy Styler. The tension in his life was really heavy. And of course, it found its way into his music. Here's what Sting told me about answering the question of, is Every Breath You Take a stalker anthem or a love song?
I'm never going to contradict people's interpretation of my songs, even if they differ to my own, because one enriches the song. I think the power of the song is that it is ambiguous. It's about both things. It can be about control. It can be about protection. Obsessive love, all of those things, but they don't contradict each other. When I sing the song, some people think it's a romantic, other people think it's about a stalker. It's about both. Human relationships are very complicated.
Every Breath You Take won 2 Grammy Awards, Song of the Year, and Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. It was also nominated for Record of the Year. It finished as the biggest song of 1983. Coming in at number 9, I got the king of smooth, Mr. Lionel Richie. He dropped a groove so infectious, so jubilant, so irresistible that it united the entire planet in one big feel-good dance party. Well, my friends, talk about Lionel's All Night Long. Now, Lionel Richie wasn't new to making hits. I mean, by 1983, he was already a chart-topping hit machine. First with the Commodores with smashes like Easy and Three Times a Lady and Still.
Easy like Sunday morning. Three times a lady. Still.
Then he broke off for a solo career and he just kept ascending. Now, he started off his solo career with a lot of slow jams, but for his second album, Can't Slow Down, one of the biggest albums of '83, he wanted to do something different. A track that fused pop and soul and dance with a big dose of international spice. Lionel started to write this breezy, upbeat track with a Caribbean feel. But get this, to perfect the pronunciation of All Night Long's Jamaican words, Lionel Richie got even more creative. He basically stalked his wife's gynecologist, a guy named Dr. Brian Grigg. Lionel Richie loved Dr. Grigg's Jamaican accent, so much so that he wanted to imitate it for the song. So in order to hear him speak a lot, Richie would repeatedly call him on the phone and take mental notes. Said Lionel, and I quote, "I was worried about getting the right words and about pronouncing them just correctly. So my wife's gynecologist is Jamaican, so for a week I was after him. Finally, he said, 'Look, Lionel, I'm right in the middle of an appointment. Can we talk later?'" It's funny. But I guess Richie must have talked to him enough times to get exactly what he wanted, because Dr. Brian Grigg is a dialect coach on the song. He gets credit for it.
Raise the roof and have some fun.
He also wanted to put some Swahili in the song, but the problem is he didn't speak Swahili, or any other African language for that matter. But that wasn't about to stop him. So with some artistic ingenuity, Lionel Richie made up his own language. The joyful chants that you hear in All Night Long, like Tambole de se domaya, that Jumbo Jumbo, that's actually total gibberish. He checked with the United Nations to try and get a real African dialect, but when he was told it would take months, he just made up a phonetic party language right on the spot, and it really worked. Nobody cared, everybody thought it was Swahili, and you have to understand the lyrics to feel this jam. All Night Long dominated the airwaves, shooting the #1 of the Billboard Hot 100, staying there for 4 weeks. It earned Lionel a Grammy for Producer of the Year, solidified him as a solo superstar as well. He played it at the Olympic Games in 1984 to an audience of billions. It was the closing ceremony of the LA Olympics. The entire world saw this song. And man, come on, who can deny All Night Long? It's so good. Oh man, coming in at #8, I got a song that was inspired by vampire love, sung by a woman who had just undergone vocal cord surgery. At #8, Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. What a song.
Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart.
You know, when Jim Steinman wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart, it was actually called Vampires in Love. As the original title implies, it was a vampire love song about vampires doing the wild thing, right? It's actually about the darkness, the powerlessness, and the eternal longing. In the words of Jim Steinman, the song is about an undying love, even when it's toxic or doomed.
I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart.
Bonnie Tyler, fresh off throat surgery that gave her that signature raspy growl, she was a big fan of Jim Steinman's work, especially on Meatloaf's epic Bat Out of Hell album. She was looking for a song that would launch her comeback, and she told her manager that she would love to work with Jim Steinman. It's crazy because Jim initially declined to work with Bonnie, but after spending time with demos of her singing rock songs, he actually did a 180. He eventually loved her voice and thought that she had the perfect tone, the perfect voice for Total Eclipse of the Heart. The all-important Turnaround and Turnaround Bright Eyes, that vocal section was actually performed by Rory Dodd, a singer from Canada that Jim Steinman enjoyed collaborating with. The lyric Turnaround Bright Eyes, that had originally appeared in Steinman's 1969 college musical, The Dream Engine. Story also sang backup vocals on Air Supply's Making Love Out of Nothing at All, another Jim Steinman composition that actually was at number 2, while Total Eclipse of the Heart was at number 1. He had the number 1 and number 2 song in the country. Bonnie Tyler insisted on a radio edit for Total Eclipse of the Heart, so it was cut from 7 minutes and 2 seconds to 4.5 minutes and became one of the biggest hits of '83. Went to number 1 for 4 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a chart topper in Australia, Canada, South Africa, and the UK, as well as other countries. Single actually sold over 6 million copies around the world, and it garnered a Grammy nomination for Best Female Vocal Performance for Bonnie Tyler. She should have won it.
A total eclipse of the heart.
Coming in at number 7 on the countdown of the top 10 of '83, we have a song that had 3 different versions of the same song competing at around the same time, but only one came out on top and was a huge hit. I got Huey Lewis and the News with that catchy ditty, Heart and Soul.
That's what she wants, 'cause she's heart and soul.
My man Huey Lewis and his News delivered the signature version of Heart and Soul, but it was actually first recorded by the band Exile. The band from Kiss You All Over fame.
I wanna kiss you all over.
It was penned by the prolific writing duo of Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin, hitmakers all the way. And the song was recorded by Huey. And here's what he told me about it.
We knew Mike Chapman because he had come up and flirted with producing us back in the day. And I had asked him if he had any songs, and he sent me this tune. And it was, to me, to my ears, commercialist. And I now know it's the Exile version. I didn't even know that. But I said, wow, this is a hit, Let's just do it. And so we did that just to kind of cover our base, It was the last thing we recorded. And we pretty much just aped the record, I think. I think we did exactly the same thing that Mike Chapman did with Exile, I think.
I don't know. I listened to them both back to back. That's a really rocking song. There's a lot going on in that, but always cuts through the record.
The reason there's so many hooks is because it's Mike Chapman, Nicky Chin song. That's the kind of stuff they write. They write pop music, and they're great at it. And so, but the approach was to harden it up a little bit. You're quite right. But I knew it was commercial, but we tried to harden it up a little bit. But a funny story, I was pitched the song from a publisher at Chrysalis Records, a nice guy who pitched me this, who sent it to me, because Mike Chapman had contacted him, I guess, and he sent me the song. And I went, man, that's great. So we cut it, and we were mixing it in the studio, or I guess we were cutting it in the studio somewhere in LA. And I went to the bathroom. I go out of my studio and I walk down the hallway to another studio, and in the other studio I hear Heart and Soul coming out. The Bus Boys were cutting Heart and Soul also at the same time. So the publisher had pitched the song to 2 different people, and they were cutting it at the same time. And I thought, oh my gosh, so maybe we shouldn't. But I listened to it. I perched outside the door. And I thought, nah, our version's a little better.
So neither Exile or the Bus Boys version of Heart and Soul broke the Billboard Hot 100.
'Cause she's heart and soul.
But the catchy, definitive version by Huey Lewis and the News was a huge success, went to number 8 on the Hot 100, and went to number 1 on the Billboard Top Rock Track survey.
She's heart and soul.
Screeching in at the number 6 slot, I've got the very suggestive Little Red Corvette by His Purple Majesty Prince. By 1983, Prince had already established a reputation of being provocative, yet he hadn't landed a mega hit until Little Red Corvette from the 1999 LP. The song's metaphor, a fast, alluring car representing a passionate yet fleeting relationship, it captured listeners' imaginations, Lines like, I guess I should have known by the way you parked your car sideways that it wouldn't last, showcase Prince's lyrical genius, turning everyday imagery into alluring storytelling about love and desire.
By the way you parked your car sideways, I don't wouldn't last.
Now, ironically, the inspiration for Little Red Corvette didn't come from some wild tryst that Prince had. It actually came from a nap. After an all-night recording session, Prince dozed off in the backseat of bandmate Lisa Coleman's Pink Marauder. That brief siesta sparked the thematic idea to use a flashy car as a sexual metaphor, and a subsequent series of little rests and breaks helped him put the verses together to finish the song. And the song's rife with sexual innuendo and erotic metaphors using the Corvette. That was the main one, and yet there's still a lot of people out there that think this song's about a fast car. I remember as a kid, my uncle was talking about this being the best song ever about a car. My dad kind of smirked and said, this song is not about a car. My uncle's like, what are you talking about? It's called Little Red Corvette. It's about racing a car. I still have a couple friends that believe the same thing. Man, some people just don't listen to the lyrics. Many are under the impression that the guitar solo in Little Red Corvette was executed by Prince, since he was such a phenomenal guitarist. But it was actually executed by Des Dickerson, who was the lead guitarist in Prince's backing band, The Revolution. Make no mistake about it, though, Prince didn't play the solo, but he was in complete creative control of each element on the recording. This was actually Prince's first top 10 hit. It landed at number 8 in Australia, number 7 in the UK, and number 6 on the Hot 100. Halfway into the top 10 songs at 83, we got Journey's lead single from the Frontiers album, Separate Ways, Worlds Apart, at number 5. In 1982 and 83, Steve Perry and Jonathan Cain watched bandmates guitarist Neil Schon and bassist Ross Valerie go through really tough divorces. The palpable stress that affected the musicians became the inspiration for this classic song. It's since become their signature rock song for sure. One of the toughest songs for any singer to take on, but Steve Perry knocks it out of the park. As perfect of a rock song as this is, it also has some baggage. It's got one of the worst music videos ever put to film. Even the band admits it. More on that in just a second. So Jonathan Cain created the synth line with Steve Perry in a hotel room on this little Casio synthesizer. And it was an urgent piece of music. It was a rock song. It was undeniable. So then they presented the rough draft of the song to the rest of the band the following day at soundcheck. And it came together, man. At that moment, Journey was looking for one more song that would bolster their live set. So they fleshed out Separate Ways in a flash, and they loved it so much they decided to throw it in the set of their performance that very same night. And even with Steve Perry mumbling his way through the unfamiliar lyrics on stage, and then the band just barely playing it together, the audience reaction to Separate Ways was off the charts. They flipped out. When they got that kind of reaction, they knew that they had a hit for their next record, Frontiers. But the music video of air guitar and an actress that made Steve Perry's girlfriend, Sherry, very jealous, it's got to go down as one of the cringiest music videos ever. I spoke to Neil about it. Here's what he said. The MTV, you guys, the video was so big. Where did that...
It got so big because it was so bad. It was like one of your original $3,000 videos. I forget what we spent on a video, but it was really ridiculously cheap, and that's why it looks so cheesy.
It was that, it was a Steve Perry black and checkered.
Man, it's like
muscle shirt.
All those videos that they kept trying to do these videos with a theme to it where everybody's playing a part or acting. They were all cheese, man, just terrible.
Someday love will find you.
That's where the band lived.
Yeah.
It was like live. There was nothing cheesy about it. But you try to stick us in a room and make everybody play a role and act. It was like terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Really bad.
Separate Ways, Worlds Apart was a #1 rock track for Journey and their 4th top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, cresting at number 8. The song ranking at number 4 on a countdown of the top 10 songs of '83 echoed from the souls of Scottish pride and it resonated in cities and valleys around the world. I'm talking about Big Country with In a Big Country.
In a big country, dreams stay with you.
Man, In a Big Country bursts on the scene with tenacious passion for Mother Scotland.
Like a lover's voice parts the mountainside.
From Stu Adamson's shout in the raging intro, the track soars and roars with a spirit that few songs have ever been able to express. In a Big Country was a highlight of the 80s, a true classic of the rock era. Big Country, the band, that was the brainchild of guitarist and vocalist the late Stuart Adamson, formerly of the punk band Skids, joining forces with the guitarist Bruce Watson, bassist Tony Butler, and drummer Mark Berzazicki. The band sought to craft a sound that was both contemporary and also deeply rooted in their Scottish heritage. It was a very unique and potent combination, to be sure.
Stay alive.
You know, one of the coolest parts of In a Big Country was the edgy bagpipe effect that was not produced by bagpipes. That distinctive sound was achieved through the use of the MXR Pitch Transposer 129 effect pedal. This gave the guitars a bagpipe-like quality, even though many believe they are real bagpipes to this very day. The sound further emphasized the band's Celtic influences. Like a lover's voice fires the mountainside, In a Big Country was loud and proud in '83, climbing to number 17 in the UK and the Billboard Hot 100, and number 7 in Australia, and all the way to number 3 in Canada. Should have been a #1 hit. Now it's time for the track at the number 3 position on the top 10 songs of '83 from the biggest album of 1983 and the biggest album of all time. I got Human Nature by Michael Jackson. Now, I'm sure everybody in the POR community knows that Michael Jackson's Thriller is the all-time best-selling album. I mean, the numbers, they're still astonishing. Unofficially over 100 million units, maybe even 120 million. Seems like that's even low because everybody had this album. At least one song from that monster record had to be on this countdown. Now, I chose not only what I believe is the best song from Thriller, but also one of the best songs of the 80s. And it has a Toto touch to it. Written by Steve Porcaro from Toto and John Bettis, who was a master lyricist. Actually, John wrote smash hits for Madonna, the Pointer Sisters, and Whitney Houston and the Carpenters, among many others. Actually has nearly 1,200 songs to his writing credit. This song came by total accident. Toto had sent a tape full of songs to Quincy Jones, none that really caught his fancy, so he was actually distracted doing other things when the tape somehow started playing the other side. It clicked over, and he heard this melody that was so compelling, he knew the song was special. I was actually invited over to Steve's home, his home studio a while back. We had a great conversation about Human Nature in collaboration with John Bettis. Here's what he said.
Well, Toto was mixing Toto 4. I'd been very busy. I'd been working real hard. My daughter, Heather, lived with her mom. And I wanted to stop by and see Heather and give her a hug before I went to work. And she had had a bad day at school, she had told me. Was very upset about it. She had fallen off a slide and a boy hit her. And she was asking me why. You know what I mean? Why would he do that? And I remember taking a deep breath and just trying to explain to her that he probably liked her, you know what I mean? And wanted her attention, and that was the only way he knew how to. And I was just trying to, explain some aspect of human nature to her, and that title just popped into my head on my way to the studio. You know, when she asks why, I'll tell her that it's human nature, you know. I just really like that chord change. I had just mixed my demo of Human Nature, you know, in the studio with this 4-track cassette and adding some other parts, and I just kind of thrown it down on a cassette. That was these very short cassettes we'd have. David called down to me and he says, "Those 2 grooves we're working on last night, Quincy's guy's on his way to pick them up. Throw them on a cassette for me." And I said, "Sure," only to find out that we were out of cassettes. So all I did was fast forward it and turn it around and relabel it, and I put David's things on the A side, so that would be what you heard when you popped the cassette in. You know, Human Nature was on the other side. I never thought he'd ever hear it, you know. But then, so that's why the next day David tells me Quincy called him and started talking about this Why song, and David really had no idea what he was talking about. Anyway, Paige told me it took him a half an hour to tell Quincy, you know what, that's not even my song. You know what I mean? I think it's one of that's one of Poco's tunes, you know. Anyway, but then to hear Quincy tell it on the Thriller 25th anniversary, he's talking about how he had gotten the cassette from David and put it in, and then had just kind of let it go, had started doing some other puttering around his office or whatever. I don't know what the exact story was, but then all of a sudden he started hearing
it clicked around
Human Nature, and so what I've assumed is that auto reverse must have kicked in.
Yep.
You know, because the cassette wasn't that long. I had like 15-minute cassettes to throw demos on. You know, they weren't full 90-minute cassettes or something like that. You know, so it could have happened pretty soon after David's couple things. You know.
Yeah.
But what a fluke, you know.
Now, the obvious pick here would have been Billie Jean or even Beat It. And I would have had all 3 of those songs in this countdown.
She told me her name was Billie Jean, and she caused a scene. You wanna be bad,
But before I started doing these yearly countdowns, I decided to have the criteria of just 1 song per artist. I mean, otherwise it would be a bunch of countdowns full of Beatles and Stones and Fleetwood Macs and such. So I was forced to make a choice of those 3, and I went with Human Nature. I did it for MJ's tender, haunting, heartfelt vocal. As the 5th single from Thriller, the track peaked at number 2 on the adult contemporary chart, and in Canada and America, it moved to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it went to number 5 in Brazil. I think Human Nature is Michael Jackson's best song. There's just something about it that is so haunting, and it just cuts to the bone. It's just, I love this song. I do. I just can't say enough about it. If you didn't like this choice, wait till you get to my number 1. Just missing the pinnacle of our top 10 songs at 83 countdown. Almost was number 1. I got Def Leppard with Photograph from Pyromania at number 2. Now, the genesis of Photograph can be traced back to the High and Dry sessions, where it existed as an unfinished track. Can you believe that? During the Pyromania sessions, producer Mutt Lange revisited the song, and he contributed the line, "All I've Got Is a Photograph," which became the lyrical and thematic foundation of the track. Now, while Photograph has often been interpreted as a tribute to Marilyn Monroe, lead vocalist Joel Elliott clarified that the song is more broadly about something you can't ever get your hands on. Joe's lyrics convey a sense of longing and unattainable desire, feelings that we've all experienced in our lives at one time or another. Now, when Def Leppard did Pyromania, they set out to create a Star Wars for the ears. That's what they said. I love that. They certainly did this. Let's talk about the opening guitar riff of Photograph. It's one of the most recognizable in rock history. Every time it comes on, we turn it up to 11. That was crafted by the great Steve Clark. The riff combines power chords and melodic hooks, creating an anthemic sound that defined the band's style. Now, the song is primarily in the key of E major, but the chord progressions incorporate modal interchange, adding complexity and emotional depth for sure. Steve Clark, God rest his soul, he was such an incredible guitar player. We honor him now. Now, the recording of Pyromania introduced a very meticulous production approach. The band recorded bass and guitar parts to a click track provided by a Linn LM1 drum machine, allowing for flexibility in re-recording and rewriting parts. Drums were added later in the process, but during the album's production, you remember guitarist Pete Willis was sacked because he was sloppy drunk all the time. And he, of course, was replaced by the great Phil Collen, who contributed solos and guitar parts not yet recorded by Willis. Phil recalled, Pete and Steve Clark had done these amazing rhythm guitar beds. And it was just a joy to whiz around and play solos over the top. Photograph, that was the breakthrough commercial single for Def. It was their first entry into the top 40. It reached number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and owned the Billboard Top Rock Tracks chart for 6 weeks. Huge song. This song's success played a crucial role in Pyromania achieving diamond certification, selling over 10 million units in the US, solidifying Def Leppard's superstar status in the rock music scene. All right, it's the moment of reveal. It's time to name the number one track of our countdown of the top 10 songs of 1983. And this one's going to shock you, but I gotta be honest with you. This song came from a band that many people mistakenly list as a one-hit wonder. They ruled MTV with a big video and a big hairdo, but beyond the gimmicks and the hype, the band had what I believe is the best song of 1983. Now, it only hit number 30, but decades later, I think we're starting to get it. The song is so moving. The number one song of our countdown is Space Age Love Song by A Flock of Seagulls. Bear with me here. Mike Score and his band A Flock of Seagulls soared to fame with a unique blend of synthesizers and soaring guitars that gave their music a futuristic edge. Leaning into a sci-fi aesthetic, they kicked off the US version of their self-titled debut with I Ran So Far Away, a track about an alien abduction. The follow-up to that was Space Age Love Song, a track that I still find incredibly mesmerizing and eternally cool. Now, Space Age Love Song was not the symbolic 80s track that I Ran was. I mean, I get it. It was a mid-chart at best. It stalled at number 34 in the UK and number 30 here on the Billboard Hot 100. But man, it is one of my favorites. And for the many who will disagree, I hope you'll respect my honesty here. You know, I shoot from the heart. I don't know any other way to do it. But I'm asking you, go listen to this song on repeat. And halfway through the second time listening, I know you'll agree with me. It's incredible. Man, this song, it's a lush, dreamlike ecstasy of guitar mastery. In 3 minutes and 48 seconds, it takes you to a mystical realm of sonic seventh heaven. It's a wall of guitars. It's transcendent. I mean, it may have invented shoegaze and dream pop in one fell swoop. It's a perfect song. You know the feeling you have when you first fall in love? The first time you ever fell in love where it hit you like a ton of bricks. It was like the moment in the Wonder Years where, you know, Winnie's going in slow motion. That's what this song is. That it gives that same feeling, except you only feel that feeling, you only experience that feeling 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 or 4 times in your life. Here in this song, you get to experience it every time you play it. It's incredible. I got the lowdown about our number one song on the POR 1983 countdown from Mike Score, former hairdresser who became an icon of the 80s New Wave movement.
My brother at that time lived next door to me. You know, I had an apartment, he had one there. So I think it was probably 8 o'clock in the morning. I was still awake messing with this song. And I went to him and I said, hey, listen to this. I just wrote it. And he just went, it's rubbish. So we got to rehearsal that night and I went, here's that little song I wrote last night, you know. So everyone's like, okay, let's play it. And of course, now we had the big synth sound, real drums, Simmons drums, proper electronic drums. And I had some of the lyrics, which were inspired by just meeting someone and catching their eye, you know. I wanted it to be simple and totally understandable so that everybody knew. You know, everybody knows when you meet a girl and you look in her eyes, if there's a spark, there's a spark.
Right.
You know, and if there's not, then down the road you go. But I did actually write other lyrics for it when I was writing it at home. It's just that when we got to rehearsal, I put the nicer lyrics in. And I just wanted it to be simple. And then we were saying to Paul, you know, we have to find a counterpart, a simple guitar melody to go with that. Because we were all like, this is a pop song. It's a little space age pop song. And we actually were looking for a name for it. And Frank said, it just sounds like a space age love song. So we wrote Space Age Love Song on our blackboard. And we never rubbed it off because we would say, let's rehearse Space Age. And over time, that little guitar melody that we were kind of singing developed into this, because it's like once you get into a song and you're confident in the part, you start expanding it and developing it and, hey, give it a bit more of this kind of sound and that. And don't get in the way of me singing, and space drums came out, you know, do-do-do-do. So we went out and bought one of those, and immediately it fitted that song, you know, perfectly. So we had that song probably over about a week of playing, I think, that song nonstop turned into people's favorite, and, you know, one of my favorites that we ever wrote too.
I went with one honorable mention for 1983. Actually, it could have been our number 11 pick. Amid many other worthy tracks, I've got Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by Eurythmics.
Sweet dreams are made of these.
Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart's groundbreaking synth-pop song. It came when they had just broken up as a romantic couple, and they were very close to giving up on their aspirations of making it big in the music business. Annie Lennox was in a deep depression. And then suddenly, Dave Stewart began playing a riff so riveting, so powerful, it shook Annie Lennox right out of her state of depression, and she started blurting out her deepest, darkest feelings, like a patient opening up to a psychiatrist.
Who am I to disagree? I travel the world.
Sweet Dreams Are Made of This was born, and they knew they had something incredible. But get this, when they showed it to the music executives, the label, they were like, there's no chorus. There's no obvious hook there. There's no hook. Dave Stewart's response to the Suits would prove to be prophetic. The whole song is a hook. He was exactly right. Sweet Dreams became a #1 smash. As the debut single for Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams was a surprising and liberating #1 sensation on the Billboard Hot 100. It also went to #2 in the UK.
Everybody's looking for something.
So man, I'm excited to see your comments about 1983 and your favorites from the year, and share your memories. My #1, I know it's controversial, and honestly, I had Photograph at #1, but then I decided for once to go with my heart on this. A lot of times when I do this countdown, I kind of go with what my criteria is. What were the most popular songs? What are the songs that mean the most? What do they mean the most years later? And then what I consider to be the greatest. I kind of combine that all in one thing. And here I decided to go with my heart, and that's where you have it. So let me know, am I crazy? Are you gonna quit the channel? Let's have a great discussion below. What's your top 10? If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, I'm telling you, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.